Hey everyone, okay, so today is a different video. I posted a very similar video, I think in February or March of this year. I deleted the video, found it a bit overwhelming. Some very kind people started GoFundMe pages. It was just way too much for me. Deleted the video, asked the kind people to please take down the GoFundMe pages because I could never take it ever. And they did, and people were refunded. So this is kind of an update. Now, I would very much appreciate, please do not do any of those pages. I will not accept anything. This is just a story, and I guess trying to draw a line in the sand over the things that have happened. I tried to film this video on Monday, didn't go too well. So we're gonna try and get through it and just talk. I kind of learned about money and the problems with money from a very early age. I remember my mother being sat on her bed, she was crying, and there were this paper everywhere, and there were just bills everywhere, and it was a case of if she paid the gas, she couldn't pay the electric, and if she paid the electric, she couldn't pay the rent. And my mother was a very hard worker, and we just didn't have enough money, despite the fact that there was a two-parent household. Only one parent consistently worked, and the strain of that was immense. My very early teens, maybe 12 or 13, we found ourselves without a home, and we were put into bed and breakfast, and eventually the council found us a council flat, which we moved into. My mother to this day still lives in council accommodation. And growing up, I was very aware of lack of money. I could never ever have asked, even though I tried, for additional money because my mother didn't have it. She really didn't have it. I could never say, could I have £5 to go in? She never had the money, and she would have loved to have given it to me as well, but she just didn't have it. And money troubles, money problems, and poverty, living hand to mouth, it is a disease that can spread from generation to generation, and it is a horrible, horrible way to live, and it's awful. And I remember feeling just so despondent as a child because I was always aware that there was problems with money and the desperation that that caused. When I was 20, I moved from Somerset, where I grew up, to South Wales, and indirectly found myself in debt suddenly. My partner had considerable debts that I was unaware of, and it wouldn't have made a difference. I would have moved gladly. But I suddenly was like, okay, now we've got all this debt. In my first couple of years of working in South Wales, all my wages went to help pay off this debt, and then about 50% until the debt was cleared, and we did clear that debt. Ironically, it was one of the worst and best times, because congratulations, you're in debt, and best because we had no additional money, so we only had the option of staying in, and that formed a closeness that maybe we wouldn't have had otherwise. And I so desperately wanted to get out of this situation of struggling all the time. And I'm a relatively hard worker. I've had multiple jobs throughout my life, and I just wanted out of it. If you kind of fast forward to 7 or 8 years ago, maybe 7 years, I don't know, I forget things, I'm old. I started my makeup brushes, and I used every single penny I had in savings and a loan. I started, should I say, this company. And I had no idea what I was doing, right? I never run anything, I've never produced anything, I didn't know anything about production, costs, completely just no idea what I was doing. And of course, the first thing you do is you seek help. You need somebody that's going to help you understand how to run this, your accounts, all of that stuff, perfectly normal stuff. And that's what I did. And that was my first mistake. And I believed everything I was told, because why would I not? I'm going to see a professional, apparently. And everything was good and well until one day it wasn't. On the 23rd of December 2018, I received a letter that informed me that I owed just over 80% of everything I had ever earned, ever. I can remember sitting there looking at this, just thinking, what on earth has happened? And I was just completely just blindsided by the amount of lies, deceit, dishonesty that had been fed to me. I had to find myself some help really quick, and a new accountant, obviously. And I did that, and my accountant was just up to his eyeballs trying to go through things. I remember this really, really clearly. This one point I remember sitting there and him saying to me, "Did you sign these documents?" And I was like, so I was looking at these documents. I was like, "No." And he said, "Well, your signature's here." But it wasn't my signature. It was where I was, but not my signature. And I just remember thinking at that time, oh my God, what on earth is happening? And it felt like the sole purpose of these people who had got me into this situation, their sole goal was to take as much from me as they could while leaving me in this absolutely desperate situation. And the level of despair I felt during that period was just immense, because I realized that that this had happened to me, and I had been treated incredibly awfully, and that it felt like the sole purpose of these people was to take advantage, to take as much as they possibly could while leaving me in this awful situation. And it was just awful, and that incredible despair and hopelessness. And all throughout my life, all the good and bad things that have happened to me, I've never ever lost any hope. I always thought, it's okay, you know? And I didn't feel that about this situation at all. I felt completely just numb, I suppose. When I was younger, growing up in the mid-90s, I was in school in the sort of latter years of my life, and it was just an awful time. You know, you can imagine what it's like for a gay kid in the mid-90s. It was no fun whatsoever, no fun at all. And at one point I was riding home on my bike, and these kids tried to kick me off my bike into the incoming traffic. And at that point the school stepped in, and they allowed me to leave school 10 minutes early every day so that I could make it home safe, which is the least they could do, because they saw my treatment at school from day one when I got there, and they did nothing. So that's the least they could do, so I could at least make it home safe. And even through that, which was pretty bad, I never ever lost any hope that I would be okay, because I realized that I wasn't a bad person. There was whatever they hated about me, this gay thing, which is what it was, I couldn't change that. And I wasn't a bad person, I was okay. And I never lost any hope, but the situation that I was facing made me feel hopeless, because I didn't know where to turn, because I'm terrified. I was terrified, and I just couldn't think. And when you can't think, you're left feeling completely without hope. I didn't tell very many people about it, and I spoke to Beautylish, and within a week the CEO had flown over here and sat down with me and was trying to make sense of it and trying to help me through it and explain that you will get through this. This will be okay. You will be okay, because I didn't feel okay. When people ask why I have such a fondness for Beautylish, they are family to me at this point. And the kindness that they showed throughout this period, the help that they provided, was immense. And I have a massive debt of gratitude to them for that. On Monday this week, Monday the 28th of September, I signed the documentation and paid off the debt that had been created. Ironically, even though we had all this information that you could see exactly what was going on and what they were doing, ultimately it was still my responsibility. I received a very kind bit of knowledge which was an analogy of what I should have done. And if you were to go to a dentist and the dentist tells you you need a filling, you should go to a second dentist to confirm the first dentist's findings, and then a third to confirm that they're both saying the same thing. In the real world, it doesn't really happen, does it? You go to a professional, you believe that they're a professional, you have no reason to believe otherwise. And that's what happened. And 28th, I signed the documentation and I paid off the debt. And it's kind of, I guess when I tried to film the video on Monday, it was way too fresh. I'm still trying to understand it. I'm still trying to make sense of what's happened. I'm still trying to come to terms with it, because I've always wanted security my whole life. I've never, even as a child, I never dreamed of being rich or famous. I just wanted to stop worrying about money, because I lived that life as a child. I did not want to live it as an adult. And ironically, it's just ironic, I suppose. I don't know if that's the correct word or use, and here we are. And it's time to draw a line in the sand and just stop and move forward, because where can you go? You know, you have to keep moving, and I will keep moving and keep moving forward. I realize that there is hope and that there are things to look forward to. There are things I'm going to do. I'm going to keep pursuing the cosmetic line. I'm going to keep doing the brushes. I'm going to move forward. But even though you see there's hope, you've still got this incredible sadness and anger that is just swirling around at the same time. So I'm going to take a week off, just sit down, feel sorry for myself perhaps for a big period, and come back next week with a jolly video, because what can you do when it's done, you know? And I gotta keep reminding myself we're walking forward and not backwards, because reliving it still comes out the same, right? You can rehash it and go over it all the time, but you still come out the same way. My accountant, who's a lovely man, he said to me on Monday, he said, "You are probably one of my nicest clients, but you were the most naive of all of them." And I think that pretty much sums it up. It has been an incredibly painful 18 months with some highs and some incredible lows. And now I'm going to sit quiet and move forward. I'm sorry this video is a bit depressing. I do apologize. I wanted to just draw a line and move forward now. And we'll move forward. That's what we will do, because that's what we have to do. Appreciate your time, your kindness, your patience, and just for being lovely. Thank you very much, and I will see you in a week. Bye-bye.